When Meghan Markle arrived at the Good Morning America studios for her highly anticipated appearance,
The buzz surrounding her was deafening.
the Duchess of Sussex was scheduled to speak with George Stephanopoulos, a seasoned journalist known for his calm yet cutting style. Her team had negotiated a carefully outlined segment to promote her new global mentorship initiative for young women. And everything from lighting to run of show was designed to strike a balance between advocacy and relatability. But behind the calm surface of professional agreements, tension brewed. George, known for challenging high-profile guests with difficult but fair questions, was reportedly uneasy about the restrictions her team had suggested. In production meetings, he insisted, "We're not running PR, we are doing journalism." Producers knew something might go off script, but nobody predicted what was about to unfold. Meghan, dressed in an immaculate navy pantsuit, smiled gracefully as she took her seat across from George. The show came back from commercial, cameras rolled, and for a few minutes the interview proceeded according to plan. Meghan spoke about mentorship, her foundation, and hopes for girls' futures. But as soon as George shifted his note cards and glanced directly at her, the atmosphere shifted. "Let's talk about trust," he said. "Some people believe your public image contradicts the transparency expected from someone in your position. What's your take on that?" Meghan blinked once, her smile faltering only a fraction. "Trust is built through consistency and clarity," she began, keeping her voice smooth. "I've always said my focus is on helping people, not defending myself." George nodded but continued. "And yet there's been consistent concern over the perceived gap between your statements and your actions, like launching commercial projects while claiming to avoid the spotlight." Meghan's lips tightened. "I think it's easy to simplify a woman's multifaceted life into contradictions," she said, "especially when that woman steps away from a system that was designed to contain her." George didn't flinch. "So you're saying any critique of your brand is inherently sexist or institutional?" Meghan's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "No, I'm saying critique without context becomes a weapon. And I'm no longer volunteering to be a target." The air felt suddenly thick. George's voice was calm but unyielding. "But if your public narrative is carefully curated, how can people distinguish authenticity from strategy?" Meghan leaned in. "You're assuming they're mutually exclusive?" "That's the problem." George raised an eyebrow. "Or I'm simply asking what millions are wondering." There was a flicker of defensiveness in Meghan's eyes now, and the camera caught it in perfect clarity. She clasped her hands and said, "I'm here to discuss how to help girls succeed, not rehash a debate that's already played out 100 times." But George pressed on. "That debate still matters when your influence is tied to perception. For example, how do you explain a mentorship platform being announced just days after launching a high-end brand collaboration?" Meghan's breath hitched almost imperceptibly. "Because women can do both," she said coolly. "We can uplift others and build businesses." "Why is that still a revolutionary concept?" George's voice was velvet wrapped in steel. "When philanthropy and personal profit walk hand in hand, people question who's leading." Meghan visibly bristled now. "That's incredibly dismissive to the work my team has done. These programs are real. These girls are real." George leaned forward slightly. "And so are the questions. Your critics say you want the praise of activism without the discomfort of accountability. How do you respond to that?" Expression sharpened. "I don't answer to critics who distort the truth for clicks." It was in that moment the live audience sensed something bigger than an awkward exchange. This was spiraling into something rare for morning TV. Meghan looked to the side briefly, as if scanning for a producer, then squared her shoulders. "This is your idea of a meaningful dialogue. Then maybe we've outgrown the same definitions of service," she said. George's reply was immediate and mercilessly calm. "Or maybe we've grown tired of celebrities who use causes as shields." Meghan's breath caught. The room chilled. "Excuse me?" she said, her voice dropping. George held her gaze, his tone sharp. "You want to be seen as a changemaker? But some believe what you've really mastered is narrative manipulation. So let's be honest, what is all of this really about?" Meghan's voice dropped to a low, clipped tone. "This is about making a difference. And if you can't see that, then maybe you've bought into the same tired cynicism that's poisoned real progress. The silence was unbearable. Even off camera, crew froze in place. Meghan uncrossed her legs, visibly agitated. "I'm not here to defend my existence," she added bitterly. George leaned back, allowing the tension to swell in her silence. "No one's asking you to defend your existence," he said. "Just your choices." Meghan stared at him, unblinking. "My choices don't need to be palatable to you to be valid," she fired back. "You've built your career on interrogating people. That doesn't make you an authority on integrity." The audience collectively held its breath. George nodded slowly, almost imperceptibly. "Fair point. But when people call for leadership, they expect openness, not curated sincerity." Meghan let out a quiet, incredulous laugh. "Wow," she said. "You've clearly made up your mind about me before I even walked on this set." George remained stoic. "I've made up my mind that the truth matters, and in public life, perception is part of truth." Meghan stood up suddenly, removing her mic with tense fingers. "Then maybe it's time I stop trying to explain myself." "Two people who only hear what they want to hear." George didn't move. "That's your choice. Just no silence speaks to." With that, Meghan turned and walked off set, leaving stunned producers, a gasping audience, and a shaken network scrambling for damage control. Within an hour, the clip was circulating online with record speed. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram Reels exploded with side-by-side breakdowns of the exchange. Headlines splashed variations of the same sentiment. Meghan Markle storms off GMA after verbal smackdown by George Stephanopoulos. On cable news and pop culture panels, anchors dissected her facial expressions, tone shifts, and every word George delivered with surgical precision. Some praised George for finally saying what no one else would. Others accused him of ambushing a woman trying to do good. Memes exploded. One showed George as a gladiator holding a mic like a sword, Meghan as a queen walking out of a burning castle. The confrontation became a mirror through which everyone projected their own bias about race, gender, fame, power, and media ethics. *ABC. News issued a vague statement the next morning. "Live interviews are inherently unpredictable. We remain committed to giving our guests a fair platform and our viewers honest conversations." Meghan's camp, however, went on the offensive. A spokesperson called the interview a blatant ambush masquerading as journalism and said, "Meghan will not engage with platforms that twist advocacy into accusation." George did not apologize. On the following episode of GMA, he said calmly, "Yesterday's interview touched a nerve. And that's often the cost of asking questions people don't want to answer." The tension between the two camps turned into a media chess game. Insider sources leaked that Meghan's team had requested questions in advance, an industry norm for some, but George had refused to commit. "That's not journalism," he reportedly told executives. The broader media world weighed in with gusto. CNN ran a segment on the ethics of celebrity interviews. NPR published a think piece titled, "When Branding Meets Broadcasting, Who Controls the Message?" Feminist voices were split. Some saw Meghan as a woman unfairly targeted by a patriarchal system. Others felt she had lost credibility by walking off instead of engaging. Among Gen Z, opinions were sharply divided. A trending hashtag Meghan deserved better, called out media double standards. While a competing trend, #Duchess Deflects, mocked what they saw as evasiveness. The situation quickly escalated beyond the interview itself. It became a referendum on modern fame, the limits of media scrutiny, and whether any public figure could truly control the narrative anymore. Despite the uproar, Meghan resumed her public schedule a week later, appearing in a carefully scripted digital event where she delivered a speech on global girlhood without interruption. But the confrontation lingered. Her brand took a temporary hit in polls, though her foundation donations actually spiked, proving her base was galvanized by what they saw as unjust treatment. George, meanwhile, was elevated as either a villain or a truth-teller, depending on whom you asked. GMA's ratings surged for several days after the incident. and producers internally referred to the moment as lightning in a bottle, though they also quietly reinforced interview protocols going forward to avoid such combustibility.